The BHAW Army Wrestling radio show. I'm Jordan Tom, followed with Brian Rowan, and we got special guest today. He was the 2016 11th Man Award recipient, 2017 graduate. He was a Rotary Scholarship recipient, and currently he's serving as a cyber warfare platoon in the Ranger Regiment. David Farr. What's up, Dave?
Hey, how you doing, Jordan? Thanks for having me on.
Good, man. Excited to talk to you. You're the youngest guy we've had on so far, so this should be fun to kind of get your perspective.
Yeah, we're trying to liven it up a little bit. We've had some of the older guys lately, so some of the feedbacks, and we had some of the more recent grads. I don't know you very well, but we've all I've heard is great things from more recent classes, and a bunch of people are like, you need to get David Farr on. You need to get David Farr on. So we're giving the people what they want.
No, thank you for having me. This is awesome. I know the guys that have been on here before have some pretty crazy stories, so hopefully I won't disappoint too much.
Well, let's see what you got. So jumping right into it. So I remember so you were in prep school when I was a senior, right?
Yep.
Okay, so you would have been going on your recruiting trip when my Cal year, and I remember Coach Heskett talking about this kid that grew up in Cornwall, and he's like this diamond in the rough. His dad's an instructor at West Point, and they're like, no one even knows about him. He's at Blair now, and I'm like, all right, cool, Coach. Let's meet this kid. And then you came on your recruiting trip. Talk to us what it was like growing up around the West Point area, maybe what your exposure was as a young kid, and then kind of what that was like when your dad was an instructor.
Yeah, absolutely. So anybody that's been to West Point knows that's the perfect place to grow up as a child. It's sweet place. There's all this stuff going on. Growing up, I got to go to hockey games, wrestling matches, football Saturdays at West Point. I played youth hockey at West Point. I played football and wrestling in Cornwall sports system. Every year I'd wrestle, and the free tournament they'd have before the Army Navy mats, and go watch Army Navy mats. So it was amazing. I had a great experience. My parents sponsored cadets. From a very young age, I was around the West Point area. Got to kind of fall in love with it at an early age. To see all sorts of unique experiences for a child, especially all the cadets coming out in their great uniforms, marching. Definitely something to look up to as a little kid.
How long did you did you move there? Did you live there your whole life growing up, or did you move there when you were little, or
Oh yeah, lived there my whole life growing up. My dad started teaching there before I was born, and then took a brief hiatus somewhere in there and taught at Stevens Institute of Technology down in the city, and then came back as soon as I got into high school. So he was there for all 4 years I was at West Point.
Yeah, so obviously your dad's a smart guy. You're smart too. We'll get into that later. But so you grow up, you're seeing it all, and you're like, oh, this is so cool. Your dad's obviously involved. Was it early on that you were telling yourself, I want to go there? Or were you like, I'm not going to do that, Dad. I'm going to blaze my own path and do something different?
No, absolutely. Growing up, I just wanted to be a soldier. I was listening to Captain Rafferty's podcast a couple weeks ago. He was saying the same thing. He was like, growing up, I can't count how many times I was a GI guy or a soldier for Halloween. I definitely the same story. I still have my mom sent it to me actually when I graduated Ranger School. One of my dad's friends gave me an airborne wings and a Ranger patch for my birthday one year. That was definitely what I wanted to do when I was a little kid growing up. So I was super fortunate to kind of grow up in the area that I did.
That's cool, man. So you start wrestling, you're involved in a bunch of other sports, and it takes you to the prestigious, anybody that's wrestling knows Blair Academy is the mecca for wrestling in high school. Tell us about what drove that decision, and when you went there. Was it in your last of your senior year, or was it your whole high school career? And tell us something that probably most people don't know about Blair, because the only thing people actually know is wrestling.
Yeah, absolutely. So I transferred there after my sophomore year of high school. I wrestled on Team New Jersey growing up, especially my freshman and sophomore year. And John Gray was the coach of Team New Jersey, and Mike Gray's older brother, and he's also an assistant coach at Blair at the time. And half that team or more was New Jersey Blair Academy guys, including Russ Parsons and a couple other dudes, and just an awesome group of people to be around. Coach Gray's an amazing wrestling coach. So the more I was around him, the more I was wrestling, I'm like, man, I want to be around these guys full time. So my dad and I looked into Blair Academy. Turned out, one thing most people don't know about it, it's also a very good like academic school. I think my senior class, 2 guys went to Harvard, 1 went to Stanford, 1 went to Princeton, and then I ended up at West Point. So there's a really good job of pushing guys to good schools, with good wrestling schools as well. So I dropped the paperwork, applied, got admitted, and enrolled my junior year and senior year there. I was there, Jack Wedholm was there, Russ was there, and Sean Miracle, another wrestler, was there. So at one point we had 4 dudes who ended up wrestling at West Point, which is pretty cool.
Pipeline.
Was Russ your classmate? Was he the?
No, he was 1 year younger. He was with Jack Wedholm. I went to prep school for a year, and then we entered West Point at the same time.
Okay. Did you going to West Point influence Russ going to West Point, or how did that? Did that?
I like to think so. Yeah, Russ and I actually have a pretty crazy story. Russ lived like an hour from Blair Academy. So while I was in high school, I used to stay at his house like over all the winter and summer breaks, and we would live together, and he would give me rides like in his beat up old Jeep to practice. So Russ and I knew each other super well. He was also really good friends with Sean Miracle, so I'm sure that had a pretty good influence on it. Russ and I go way back, all the way from like Team New Jersey days when he was cutting weight and like no one knew who he was and he wouldn't talk to like him. A social butterfly at West Point is doing great things in the Army.
Cool, man. Yeah, I remember them telling us, all right, we're going to get to Blair. We're going to get this connection going. There's a bunch of guys interested. I forgot that Sean Miracle went to Blair, so that's interesting.
Yeah, because Coach Heskett's first time actually out at Blair, he called me, told me he was going to come take me out to dinner. And then he called me like an hour later, like actually kidding, like I'm going to start the practice in 2 hours. So my wrestling partner at the time was a kid by the name of Brooks Black. And he was the number 1 in the country. Yeah. And he just used to tear me to shreds in practice. So Coach comes out, sits on the wall to watch like a 30-minute grind match between me and Brooks Black. I think I got taken down like 45 times, 50 times, like just absolutely destroyed. And I was like, there's no way this guy's gonna recruit me. I just looked terrible. I was getting like bullied and manhandled on a mat for half hour. Ended up being all right, but
thanks, Brooks. Appreciate it, bud.
Yeah, exactly. Like, man, you're like, you knew I wanted to get here. You kind of just like, let me get a couple takedowns in there.
Yeah, exactly.
So when did you first start getting recruited to West Point? Or did you initiate the conversation, or did the Coach Heskett, or like how did that like timeline work out? Like, was it sophomore year, junior year? Talk us through that.
So it's kind of funny because West Point's absolutely where I wanted to go my whole life, and Navy started recruiting me first. I went to NHSCA Junior Nationals. I didn't place, like I beat some pretty good dudes. And Brian Antonelli, Coach Antonelli, who was assistant coach at the time, and he's now the head coach at Blair, actually, kind of reached out. They invited me down to the Naval Academy for a visit. They came up to Blair a couple of times. And then I think sometime over that summer, Coach Heskett found out potentially that they recruited me, and I don't know what happened, but then he called me and I was like, yeah, we're super interested in you. I don't know why we haven't reached out sooner. And just went from there. I took my official visits, and kind of the rest was history.
Nice.
So I'm sure that comes back to bite Coach Antonelli in the butt. So next thing we want to talk about is the Army-Navy duel. So they don't get you. Army does. You make the right decision, obviously.
Of course.
And 2015, big showdown, Army-Navy duel. It had been quite a while since Army had come out on top, and it comes down to the heavyweight match, and none other than David Farr comes on the mat. And I think anybody that's been following the program in the last couple of years has seen the iconic photo of you with your hands up in the air, and the whole bench and crowd is going absolutely wild in the background as you guys are celebrating the victory. And even for dudes that weren't there like me, I'm like, oh, yeah, that's cool. I can imagine what that would have been like. As I look at the photo, that photo is like 1,000 words in one picture. So talk us through maybe pre-match or even leading up to the match. talk us
Yeah.
through the match itself and then post-match. I want to hear like the whole thing.
Absolutely. So, like starting from the very beginning, my freshman year, I started the Army Navy match too in Annapolis, and I wrestled the same guy, Colin Cook, and he beat me my freshman year, like might have like a 4-2, 5-2 match. He rode me out, and then I had to get a takedown. I took him down instead, and he just like controlled the match. So going into sophomore year, specifically going to the match, we're kind of watching the tape. And the whole time he rode me out, he just sat on my ankles. That was like the Navy heavyweight thing to do for like 8 years in a row. Every heavyweight just sat on somebody's ankles.
Classic squid move right there.
That's the Navy. Classic.
Doesn't get more squid than that.
No, it was just like the Navy ride. But that year came out like something about like sitting on ankles. You got like a count for stalling. So we worked all week, Brian Pearsall, Coach Pearsall, and he would just sit on my ankles, and I was like, just try to get out, or at least make it look like stalling. I don't think I got out like once in all of that week. And Coach Pearsall was like 150 pounds. Colin Cook's way bigger. So I knew like that was going to be rough going into that match. So like going into the match, I was super nervous. I've always gotten nervous before wrestling matches. But I was really amped up. Like it was like what I dreamed of as a little kid, wrestling. And in the stadium, and just a lot of nerves, really excited. My whole family was there, like a bunch of like friends I grew up with right in Cornwall. I was like throwing up before the match from nerves, brutal pre-match nerves. But went out there, match got started. First period, like classic heavyweight match, nothing happened. Just a lot of pushing back and forth. Second period, he rode me out just like I'd gotten ridden out all week in practice, but got 2 stalling calls for, I guess it was 1-0, but he had 2 minutes riding time. Third period, it's like 50 seconds of riding time we got in, which was awesome. I thought I was gonna get the minute. And then on the restart, he gets out immediately. So I look up, it's like 45 seconds left. It's 1-1. He has a riding point. So I had a note, it's 2-1, and I just had to go for it. Heavyweight matches, like usually don't want to get caught underneath somebody, but he was super gassed. The crowd was like going wild. My adrenaline was just pumping. So I remember I like took like a sloppy ankle pick from like a Russian 2-on-1, and it just resulted in some kind of scramble that Coach Ward had been working on us and forever, like on the edge of the mat. And I think he's like gas, kind of gave up, put his head on the mat, and I got 2 points. And I thought there was still time left on the clock, so I was ready to just go back, like how long I got to ride him out for this match to be over. And I looked over at the scoreboard, and it was like all zeros left on the clock. Time ran out. Ref gave me 2. And like that's when my hands like threw in the air, looking behind me, like bench is going crazy. That's when I kind of felt like, sweet, like this match is over. I won, and I was that's like the most adrenaline I think I've ever had. I ran off the mat, like I went from almost puking from being so tired to, jumping in the air. It was awesome. It was definitely by far like the best wrestling match I've ever been part of. My parents were here there, like a bunch of my teachers were there. The soup was there. The soup gave me like a huge hug after the match. It was awesome. It was a lot of fun. It's definitely what you dream of, like as a little kid wrestling growing up. Especially as a heavyweight, like knowing the match coming down to you. It wasn't the last match of the night, but it was one of those. You do the pre-match duel in your head, and you know what the toss-up matches are. That was definitely a toss-up match. And
well, I'm pretty sure that match clinched it, right?
No, I think Logan Everett might have clinched it. That was the big toss-up match. That and 125 were big toss-up matches.
Yeah.
So I think like once I was won, it was kind of, we knew as a team that we were going to win. But yeah, there were still a couple more matches to go. And then I had a biology test the next morning and failed it.
You had a what test?
All night. I had a biology test the next morning, stay up all night trying to study, like on that kind of adrenaline, and didn't happen.
So on that note, it's our understanding that you're pretty much a literal genius. So I don't know if I believe that you necessarily failed that exam. Talk us through, getting awarded the Rotary Scholarship, kind of the process of that. I mean, that's very unique. It's unique for West Point, but it's, even more unique, as an athlete, has so many competing priorities. Talk us through that and kind of, brag on yourself a little bit about how, how the process worked and then getting out into Scotland.
Yeah, absolutely. So my girlfriend at the time, now my wife, was like a Rhodes Scholar finalist, and I was like looking at a bunch of scholarships going into her senior year. Way smarter than I am. I was kind of like looking with her. I was like, I might actually qualify for a couple of these. Like looking at like the minimum GPA requirements, like the background of like what they were looking for, specifically the Rotary. And I saw you could go abroad wherever you wanted to for a year for grad school. That's an amazing deal. The Army pays full salary. You have to go live wherever you want for a year. So I put in all the paperwork, talked to the local Rotary district, then Rotary International, and did like a few interviews. They were very supportive. They saw I was like a West Pointer, a college athlete, and they loved the entire story. So yeah, I applied scholarship program, got accepted. Just had to find a grad school program. I don't speak any foreign languages, at least well, so like UK is really my only option for going abroad. I just looked up like the top 3 or 4 schools in the UK. I saw Edinburgh had a really good math program, and the guy got back to me like the next day, like, yeah, we've had a couple West Pointers come before on scholarships. We've had great experiences. We'll send them whatever paperwork you need. So it all happened within like 3 months. I found out that I was going to get to go to grad school post West Point. So those opportunities are absolutely out there for people. And it was amazing. It was a really cool year abroad.
How competitive is it? I guess how many people apply for it? You make it sound like, oh, there was a handful of people that applied. Like all you got to do is apply.
Exactly.
I'm sure it's a lot more intensive than what you're leading on. So I'm thinking,
Yeah, absolutely. So West Point has its own requirements for applying to scholarships. I think it's like some sort of minimum GPA. So I met those, and then the Rotary organization itself, it's all district dependent. Usually there's like 15 or 20 people, and then each district selects one, and you move up through there. So it's not overly competitive, but you definitely have to have some sort of credentials and a pretty good story to tell as to why you deserve to go.
I think it's probably way more competitive than you're saying. You're just like, most people don't even try to apply because they know that they don't even qualify. Myself, for example, you know how you get those little crests that you wear if you're top 10% of your class?
Yeah.
Yeah, I had one of those too. It's upside down, bottom 10, bro.
That's awesome. Yeah. It was definitely pretty competitive, but yeah, it was a good experience for sure.
So did you report to anybody there? Like, did you have to was there any type of accountability that you're there, or is it like you got to go, and sign in? How does that work from like an Army perspective while you're there for a year?
No, yeah. So absolutely wild from an Army perspective. I didn't even bring a uniform with me to the UK. Like I had a beard for 3-4 months. I didn't report to anyone. Like these are the answers I'm supposed to say, but it was awesome. Like technically I reported to U.S. student attachment in South Carolina, Fort Jackson. I sent them an email like once every 5 months saying like, hey, I'm alive. Here's my APSTA that like I graded myself because there's not another military member in the city.
So you had 2 accountability formations that year?
not one.
Yeah. Via email?
yeah, just about. But it was awesome. I got to travel a bunch. I learned a bunch. Grad school is like very intensive study and research wise, but time wise, there's nothing compared to West Point. I actually met up with Brian Harvey, class of 16 at one point, like went to the running of the bulls with them in Spain. Got to go skiing in the Alps. Like it was wild.
Okay, so tell us about running with the bulls now that you bring it up, because that sounds awesome.
I was like a classic Brian Harvey weekend. It was amazing. We like flew into to Madrid, like got super fat, drank a bunch of sangria, and then took a train to Pamplona. And this like the entire experience was amazing. There was so many just like local Spanish people there, as well as like a bunch of tourists. And I remember Brian, like all week, he was like, I'm going to touch a bull's tail. Like, I'm going to grab it by the tail. It's like, dude, like, no way. Those things are extremely scary. And, you know, like once a year, like somebody dies from doing something stupid. Like, that sounds stupid. Yeah, that's how people die. And like the 4 or 5 bulls or whatever came charging down the alleyway. It was like hundreds of us scattering to not get gored. And Brian looks at the bull. You can like see it like flicker in his head. It's like, am I going to do it? And I grabbed him, like we pulled into a doorway, let the bulls run by, and he didn't do it. So I'm really glad he didn't, because I don't know, we might have a different Brian Harvey here today.
That is flipping hilarious.
Yeah, it was an awesome weekend. We ended up like making it to the Coliseum, spent like 40 minutes getting chased around by bulls, and then I think we had like enough adrenaline for probably a month, but definitely for the day. Got out and went and got like a massive breakfast and more sangria, and yeah, awesome weekend.
Cool, man. So you go to Scotland, you spend a year there, you're running around with the bulls, doing all this crazy stuff. Obviously getting a really top tier education, which is something to be proud of. But after your time in Scotland, you transition back into the military life, which I'm sure was hard. It's like you're off doing your own thing for a year, not really thinking about Army. Now it's time to come back, do what you trained at West Point for 4 years. And you are part of a new branch, cyber warfare. Was that the first year it was offered? Was your class?
I think we were the 3rd year.
Okay. But newly formed branch, want to take a minute, talk about branching. So for potential recruits and people listening.
And also the older graduates too, who like maybe went through like a different branching and posting sequence, because now it's a lot more detailed than it was even when I was going through it.
Yeah, and I may need a little help from David on this, but in general, okay, your performance at West Point and your main three pillars, so education, physical fitness, and military, gives you an overall class standing in your class out of, let's call it 1,000 people, 1 through 1,000. The number one person in the class, he receives his first choice. If there's only a certain amount of slots available for cyber warfare in this instance, number one gets it. Now there's only 9 of 10 slots available left. Once those 10 slots are gone, they're gone. And if somebody wanted it past that, they move on to their second choice. So that's how it works. It's some of the branches are smaller and some are larger. For example, the infantry branch may need 150 people, that class. They may need 90. A smaller branch like cyber warfare may need only like 20 people. So based on your class rank and your performance over your 4 years is how you're going to get your branch. There's 16 of them during my time and 17 now with cyber warfare. I know they instituted the you're going to have to help me with the terminology, David, but basically where you get interviewed by the branches, right?
Yeah. So it's a little bit more, it's just like talent matching, I think. I think they only did it the past year or two. But
yes. Well, so what was that like? Did you meet with somebody from the cyber warfare branch then and sit down and talk with them? How did that?
Yeah, so funnily enough, Army wrestling family, very helpful always. Colonel Cook was my cyber branch interviewer.
Shocker.
Yeah. So couldn't have gone any better for me. He was amazing. It was a one-on-one interview. I think we talked about cyber for half of it, wrestling for the other half. He was super motivated. He double-checked I didn't want to go armor first. And then
of course,
once armor was out of the equation, yeah, we talked about why I thought I would fit well within the cyber branch and kind of what I had to offer the branch, what the branch had to offer back.
Cool. So to just make sure everybody's tracking the process. So now the new institution of the process is once you put in your preferences, then there's a chance on the branch's behalf to interview you and ensure that the decision that you're wanting to make, that they concur, basically, that there's not somebody that doesn't really meet the qualifications or maybe some of the key attributes that are looking for that branch, to avoid having like some nerdy little kid that shouldn't be in the infantry being in the infantry and vice versa. So
Absolutely.
you get into cyber. Explain to us what it is you do, because I'm thinking you sit there and just type zeros and ones all day. I don't really know.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess first reason I went cyber, like what most people don't understand about West Point is all the awesome summer opportunities to give you, like different like summer training experiences. They sent me to the NSA, National Security Agency, out of Fort Meade for 4.5 weeks during my junior summer into my senior year. It was like a training with industry type experience, AIAD for all the West Point people, and just seeing like what they did every day at the NSA. Like, this is insane. I can do this while being in the Army. Like, no way. So I kind of get to see like what cyber was in practice.
So what do they do? Like during that 4.5 weeks you were there, like what was their days like on a day-to-day basis? I didn't do an AID.
Right.
I feel like a lot of athletes kind of don't even look into that avenue. They're focused on like going to, airborne air assault in the summer and doing that, or doing some kind of PIAD, going to Olympic Training Center or something like that. What was that like?
Yeah. So, all expenses paid, got to hang out at Fort Meade, Annapolis for the summer, get to see what they did day to day. Day to day, like they almost had civilian jobs. They would wear their military uniform into the National Security Agency sometimes. Sometimes they'd wear suits, just depending on what they're doing that day. And they would do like pretty much what Jordan was talking about. Like they would code, which
Okay.
That's not at all what I do now. I do like a very different mission set, but at the NSA, like it's very what they're focused on, where it's like data analysis, data science, network engineering, coding, hacking, like all sorts of stuff. Anybody that's watched like an Edward Snowden movie or whatever can probably talk a little bit about what they do at the NSA. Definitely not like condoning that, but all sorts of stuff out there about like kind of what
Sure.
NSA does. What I do as a cyber officer is very kind of unique due to being in Ranger Regiment. We're a lot more tactical cyber, they call it. And we do a lot more like cyber expeditionary warfare. So that's kind of, going out with an infantry platoon maybe, or some other similar type of unit, and finding connections that we can pass back to the U.S., like so routers, networks, basically it's trying to like find computer networks and send them back stateside. You can go super in detail with that, but that's kind of the general overview of it. Awesome mission, very, very fun, and it has like a lot of technical and tactical challenges.
So to help some of us understand, like what would be an example of like a training event that your platoon would go to?
Yeah, absolutely. So like a sample training event would be like we go out with a recon unit. There's a Wi-Fi cafe that the recon unit needs to attack. And that Wi-Fi cafe might have like Wi-Fi enabled sensors or cameras or something like that. And we could drop some kind of exploit to make all those cameras and sensors turn off so you get an environment with like no detection.
Unique.
Yeah, very unique. I mean, there's all sorts of use cases for it, but that would definitely be one of them.
That's cool, man. Definitely getting a unique opportunity, and you're a trailblazer for cyber warfare because it's really new.
Yeah, and it's awesome, especially being in Ranger Regiment. Like kind of talk about Army Wrestling family. I think like the third heavyweight in a row, fourth heavyweight in a row to be here now. So like Curtis Garner, Steve Snyder, Tyler McLeese, and myself. I think Colonel Tim Sikora, who was a wrestling OR, is actually my battalion commander. So
Right on.
That's pretty cool. Keep it in the family.
Yeah.
So transition a little bit. So for older guys like me, explain to us what the Army Wrestling Millionaires is. I was up at West Point like the last week or so, and I talked to some of the teammates, some of the guys, and there's all these little references. And I kind of purposely didn't ask them because I kind of want to hear about it on the podcast and just hear what your definition of it would be.
Absolutely. So definitely I'll give credit to Samson Imanota. He started Army Wrestling Millionaires back when he was a freshman at West Point. And for everybody that knows Samson knows, like, he just did not enjoy his freshman year by the military standards, I think, at all. But that was kind of like his little way of making BHAW his own, especially the attitude portion, and kind of like saying, like, I'm taking this unique thing, make it my own. And everybody just loved it. They just kind of ran with it. And he kind of sent his friends back home, like started tagging his Instagram photos with it. And it just kind of supposed to be like symbolic of the attitude portion of BHAW. And Samson, I think he'd probably describe himself as just like a savage guy. He just loves doing everything to the extreme, very hard dude. And that was kind of his way of just relaying like what the attitude portion meant to him. And I think his brother, Jeremiah, took it, ran with it, and it's definitely like inculcated itself within the team now.
Yeah, it's definitely its own little mini subculture.
No,
but I didn't know if you had to like do some kind of initiation to like get into it, or if it was just a term that everybody kind of related to, like you're talking about. So that's cool.
Yeah.
I know you guys like dress. You guys would like wear suits and like go pick tables for like lunch and dinner tables and things like that. I saw. Like,
that's I think the year or two after I left. That was awesome. Yeah, I saw it a year or two after I left. They did like a whole like draft. A bunch of us like kicked in money to buy the beer for him, like a bunch of the new lieutenants. I think they did it down at Fireside, like rented out Fireside for the night. And
classic.
Yeah, absolutely awesome.
This episode is brought to you by Fireside.
as most of our memories have been for Saturday in Highland Falls.
When I was up at West Point last week, I was taking pictures of different like iconic things, like Trophy Point, Flirty Walk, Arvin. Then I go into Highland Falls, take a picture of Dong Fong, Shades, Fireside.
Those are
all the iconic photos.
Dave, here's a question for you. Being a heavyweight, right? So you had a totally different eating experience at West Point than me. What's your favorite spot in Highland Falls and favorite thing to eat at it?
I'm going to have to go with Cornwall on this one. I would always go to Pizza. Yeah.
Where?
So if I go to Highland Falls Market, I think they got shut down, unfortunately.
Yeah, rest in peace.
They had
Really?
Yeah.
That just ruined my night.
Sandwich at Highland Falls Market was nuts. It was like fries, mac and cheese, like chicken parm, all in one shot. It was nuts.
What'd you say was your favorite restaurant in Cornwall? I think you broke up a little bit.
My bad. Prima's Pizzeria.
Oh, yeah, Prima's.
I love it.
Yeah, big Prima's guy.
Oh.
Big Prima's guy, man. I was an HFM guy myself. I just thought their quesadillas were super unique and all that stuff. And then the burrito joint opened up and started the burrito challenge. And I watched Austin Wilding eat the burrito in like 4 minutes. He was the first cadet to ever finish it in the time standard. Got his mural painted on the wall.
Yeah, it's a great picture. I love that. The Steeler. I think they call him the Steeler.
Yeah, it was awesome.
That was great.
That's so outrageous that's a thing. But I'd be saying,
did you get your face painted on a wall in actual paint? It's absurd.
We're eating a burrito fast. So let's hear a funny story from your time at the academy.
Yeah, absolutely.
What can you remember? Let's get the viewers, the listeners laughing.
So I think my funniest one, Jordan, you probably relate this, is good old Coach Haskett preseason practices.
Classic.
Yeah, we had a practice. Something about like us not being tough enough. I don't know what it was, but basically like the whole team was soft. We need to get tougher. And he just like lost it in the middle of practice, and he just had to start punching each other, like on the whistle, partner in the head. And like most guys are throwing hard collar ties. I was partnering with like Steven Snyder. We're both pretty mild mannered dudes, so we're throwing hard collar ties, kind of looking around like what's going on. See, Alex Dahl and Nate Dow just throwing like closed-fisted haymakers at each other. Like not mad, like there's both like this crazy intense views, like just loving it, just pounding each other in the face. And then Samson Minota had another 184-pounder, not going to mention his name for his sake, but up against the wall, like bleeding nose, like tears running down his face, and Samson's just throwing haymakers at him too. At the time, I was like, this is nuts. Like, what am I doing here? Like, straight up closed fist punching, like condoned by coach on the whistle. But every year, I think that story gets funnier and funnier when we all tell it to each other, usually over drinks. Yeah, it's good times.
It can get a little rough in that room, definitely.
Yeah.
That's legitimately the most absurd thing that I've ever heard.
Yeah, no, it was wild. It was definitely wild.
So this may not correlate. So that was your funniest story. I was going to ask what your hardest practice was, but
basically,
if it's not getting
the hardest.
Yeah, if it's not the punching in the face practice with the punching in the stuff with the face, then what is it?
That one was definitely up there. That was just more hilarious, like the absurdity. Sure. I had two practices like definitely stick out to me pretty hard in my memory. First one was ski slip freshman year. I just did not know what to expect. Everybody's like, dude, you don't understand like how bad the ski slope is. Like, it's by far the worst practice of the year. I'm like, no, like I'm a decent runner for a heavyweight. Like, it'll be fine. I didn't realize like being a heavyweight meant nothing in the Army wrestling room. Like, especially when I was a heavyweight, I was doing the same exact conditioning as everybody else. And I think I lost a piece of my soul, like still left on that ski slope to this day. Running up and down it, bear crawling, partner carries, hand fighting like halfway up. At one point, like I went off to the side to throw up. I got poison ivy for like 2 weeks in the woods. Like
the gift that keeps on giving.
Yeah, it was awful. And we had I don't remember what dinner it was, like one of the Thayer Award dinners that night at like 1800 or something. And so at this point, like I'm like blue in the face along with like half the team, throwing up, like hating my life. Because it's like, all right, you guys got 30 minutes or 45 minutes, whatever it was, like get the dinner. Like I don't want to hear any excuses why you guys aren't there. So and this is at the top of the ski slope. So
classic.
Yeah, just wild. We just like take off running down the ski slope to Arvin to get in our dress grades. And yeah, that was an awful day.
And I miss West Point.
Get to dinner and you just sweated the whole time.
Yeah, that was uniquely terrible. The second one was Coach Ward practice, and I had like a knee injury or something, so I was out for a couple weeks. And Coach Ward, this is before my sophomore year Army Navy wrestling match. Coach Ward was like trying to make sure I got back in shape for that match, was good to go. So he brought me out purely to practice to Bucknell. So he brought me and Tyler McLeese, like understanding neither one of us were going to wrestle, but he wanted to supervise our practice for like 2 days. So Tyler McLeese, like not the world's best wrestler, but the dude will go forever. Like doesn't get tired, just like loves grind matches, hand fighting, like just making – he was like the dude that no one wanted to practice with because you were going to have a terrible day of practice.
He's John Anderson, Turn on the Smokes Jr.
Yeah, exactly.
I had never met Tyler before. He was actually here at Stewart, and so me and him warmed up. Like I met him, and by the end of the weekend of doing the Army Combatives tournament, me and him were warming up, and he's drilling so hard. I'm like, dude, please stop. And he just kept saying in my ear, I'm like, hey man, like I'm pretty good. I feel warm. He's like, we're Army wrestlers. We don't stop. I'm like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll have like a very unique appreciation for this story. Coach Ward brings us out there and like just has me drill Tyler for like an hour. He's just standing over us, watching us do takedowns. I'm already smoked. And then an hour, he's like, all right, like 20-minute match. Like, so you got. And I'm like dead at this point, super out of shape, hadn't wrestled in like 2 weeks. I'm already dry heaving. And just doing like whatever I can to like not have Tyler embarrass me in front of coach. So it was like one of those like massive, like dying on the mat, like reversal after reversal. It was like super sloppy wrestling. And whenever like time goes out after 20 minutes, I'm like dying on the floor. Coach Ward immediately makes us get up into sprints. Just has me running like suicides in the Bucknell wrestling room. Yeah, same thing. It was like puking by the end of it, like super upset. I think the night before that, so I knew it wasn't wrestling. Like I went out with Tyler and like Sean Badua, who was always underweight. We got a bunch of food too, so I was like super bloated, being the fat heavyweight on a road trip. So yeah,
Never known that feeling.
Yeah. Yeah, so both of those were uniquely bad experiences, but great practices. I like to laugh on them now. At the time, they weren't very funny.
So before we kind of wrap things up, one consistent question we've been asking everybody, most people we've had on is like, how has your perception of West Point changed over time? I mean, and yours is a little bit unique because you grew up, thinking about West Point, going there, playing hockey there, going to football games, hosting cadets. How has your perception, changed, when you were younger versus when you were there, and now, a few years removed, I'm sure you've been back, talk us about that.
Yeah, absolutely. So I like a very similar experience to Jimmy Rafferty on this as well. People always ask me about West Point, like, usually it's people who have no clue like what West Point is about. Like, oh man, like how terrible is West Point? Like, did you hate it? Like, how bad is it? Like, no, man. Like, I had four or five, including prep school, like my best years of my life there. Like, I made probably the best friends I ever had. Like, counting with brothers. Met my wife there. Got the opportunity to go to grad school. Got all these insane like internships and experiences I don't think I would have ever gotten anywhere else. Growing up, I always thought it'd be like really cool idea. Like looking back on it, it was an amazing experience. While I was there, like there were definitely days where I got bogged down like in the weeds of it, pulling an all-nighter. Several of those, like every other cadet, days where I like stay up all night doing Sammy, cleaning, and then you'd have practice the next morning before having to go sand the bleachers. Like there were definitely some bad days there, but there were way more good days than bad days that outweighed that.
So how would you say, now that you're like a few years removed, has your perceptions of West Point changed at all? You loved it when you left, you still love it as much, or is it leave maybe a little bit different sentimental value? Have you been back a few times since you graduated?
I haven't been back yet, which is super unfortunate. Tried a couple times. I was gone in Scotland for a year, and then Bullock for a year, and then spent some more time than I would have liked in Ranger School. But I really want to go up. I was actually talking to a bunch of the guys this past week, trying to get up there for a match if all this COVID stuff lifts. But yeah, I think just highly as it of now as I did like the day I left. Try to watch all the matches online when I can. I keep in pretty good contact with a lot of my teammates. But yeah, I definitely hold it in like very high regard, even from this point, this far out.
Yeah, I think I was actually talking to Ryan Tompkins, when you mentioned, trying to get back and getting back for a match and things like that. He grew up, parents have a donut shop in Beacon. Shout out. Yeah. Shout out to them. But yeah, I think one of the things people don't get back there because you have to fly into, kind of far away and then rent a car and get up there. So he was talking about like, hey, we'll just figure out like a shuttle for Army Navy next year and like everybody just stay at my parents' place. And so all you got to do is book your flight and we got all the other details. And I think that would attract a lot more people because it's the logistics that prevent people from doing those things. It's like, oh, I got to rent a car. That's another expense. If you're just worrying about your flight, I think it would bring a lot more people out to Army Navy.
No, absolutely. I would love to get up there for Army Navy. Yeah, my battalion commander actually just left West Point as a teacher there. I told him, like, sure, we need to go back there for a recruiting trip. Like, you were on the wrestling team. Like, wrestlers always go to Ranger Regiment. Like, this is the perfect opportunity to go recruit guys. So I'm trying to put that on the schedule for, like, September, October, whenever all this stuff lifts in. They use work as an excuse to go hang out in the wrestling room. I know when I was a cadet, I saw, like, the guys come in with the tan berets and I thought it was super cool. I know Curtis Garner did it a couple years later. So hope I can use that excuse to get back up there, watch a practice or two. But
Awesome.
Awesome going up there and seeing Army Navy, especially if Falcons help us out.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I think the biggest takeaway before we wrap it up, Dave, that I get from your whole experience is you took every opportunity to make the most of your experience. You did, the grad school, Rotary Scholarship, you did the internships in the summer, and you took a full advantage of every opportunity that was given to you, which not everybody does. Some people, have, different things that are important to them, or they want to go home or whatever. And you certainly made the most of it. And I think it paid off for you, man. You've done a lot of cool stuff, and I think it's going to take you really far in life. So thanks for coming on, man. What's next for you?
Yeah, no, thank you guys for having me. I don't know yet. So I got another 1.5 years here. The cool thing about being a cyber dude, especially like a Ranger Tab cyber dude, is there's a lot of weird openings, a lot of weird doors that are open. I might try to stay here if they let me for as long as that'll happen. There's actually like a new software development factory out of Austin, Texas that has some jobs open for Army guys. There's all sorts of stuff out there. So anybody that's listening that has a cool job for me in the Army, please let me But no, absolutely. Yeah. So yeah, I'll let you know as soon as I figure it out. But I think that's a huge key to kind of enjoying your time at West Point and making the most of it. Is West Point just throws so many opportunities at cadets, and it's a shame that most people don't take advantage of.
Yeah, take them.
Absolutely.
Well, we really appreciate you coming on. It's nice having a younger old grad on here for a change.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. This is awesome.
Hey, Dave, man, appreciate you. Take it easy.
Yeah, absolutely. Have a great one. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for tuning in to the BHAW Radio Show. If you like what you heard, be sure to subscribe and leave us a 5-star rating on your favorite podcast platform. If there's something you'd like to hear on a future show, reach out to us on any of our social media, Instagram, Facebook, or Twitter. Or you can reach us at email, bhaw.radio@gmail.com. We'd love to hear your thoughts, and as always, go Army, be Navy.